All right, it's week 10, and we have your picks and locks for every Big Ten and Mountain West game, and we're going to start with the Big Ten. Steve, have at it.
Yeah, let's roll right into it. Some major big games in the Big Ten this week. Starting off the first game, I mean, this is as good as it gets. Northwestern at Purdue. I think we may have a couple Mountain Dwellers who are Purdue fans. This is just a tough year for Purdue, so obviously I'm taking Northwestern to cover 1.5 points. Really, I mean, it's kind of a coin flip game, but I do think Northwestern is just the better team. And I said earlier, I think Purdue's going to struggle to win a game in the Big Ten, and I was just going to keep betting against them. So I'm picking this Northwestern to cover the 1.5. I don't really have confidence in either team.
Yeah.
I probably just have a little less confidence in Purdue than Northwestern, so that's why I went with that pick.
Okay, I thought maybe this was going to be the game of the week,
Oh.
but I don't think it is. I
No.
think there's more coming up. So, all right, so Northwestern, the fave at -1.5. Again, kind of a pick 'em game there.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yep. Okay. So the next game, Minnesota at Illinois. I'm taking Illinois plus 2.5. I'm surprised to see Minnesota as the favorite. So I'm taking Illinois plus the points, and I'm making that my first Big Mountain ice cold lock for this week. So I just think Illinois is a better team. I understand Minnie is surging. They've played better.
Yeah.
The last few games than they did early in the season. When you look at these two teams, Illinois has played very well. Their losses are to Penn State and Oregon, two of the better teams in the country. They have that road win at Nebraska. I just think they're the better, more experienced team, and they're playing at home. So I feel very confident in Illinois. I don't know that they're going to blow out Minnie just because Minnie's been playing better.
Right.
But I feel very confident in them winning. Maybe getting to a double-digit win. We'll see. So that's why I'm locking Illinois plus the 2.5 points. I love getting the points here. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So you think a big bounce back here from the Illini after? I mean, again, they're playing the best team in the country in Oregon, right? So, okay.
Again, when you think about it, their losses at Oregon,
Right.
okay, number one team in the country. At Penn State, with 3, 5, or 6 team in the country. Like, no, to me, it's not even a bounce back. Like, they're just going to continue to do what they're doing, I think.
Okay.
And they're going to win this game solidly.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Next game. Okay, we already talked. We set the stage for this one. I'm going to be at this game. Ohio State at Penn State. I'm taking Penn State plus the 3.5 points. I really feel that this is a pick'em game. Coming into this, I mean, Penn State, their defense playing so well this year. There is a question of quarterback. Drew Aller went out in the last game. They had a couple other injuries. But honestly, Bo Prabula came in, ran the offense really well. He adds that extra dynamic, that running game, which, could just be a wrinkle. And now Ohio State has to prepare for both quarterbacks. I don't know who's going to win this game, honestly. To me, it is a true pick-em. They're two of the top teams in the country. Ohio State, you look at their roster and you say, okay, they have the better roster. However, the last, that game against Nebraska, I think we saw David Jorgensen. He says my Huskers put up a good fight.
Yep.
Did they ever put up a good fight? They almost stole that game in Columbus, and honestly, they exposed some weaknesses.
Yep.
Ohio State has had some injuries, especially on the offensive line. They're shuffling people around. They're moving one of their better guards. They've lost their starting left tackle and then his backup. Now they're moving one of their better guards over to left tackle. And Nebraska was beating him like a drum, and then they were beating his replacements inside.
Right.
So Ohio State, they're really having trouble on the offensive line. And what is Penn State's strength? Their defense, the depth of the defense, and as the game goes on, their defensive line just keeps chipping away. They can rotate 3 deep on that defensive line, and they're getting to teams. They're shutting down the run game. They're putting pressure on the quarterback. I'm taking Penn State plus the 3.5, but to me, this is a true pick'em game.
Okay.
And we'll see. If you look at recent results over the last 10 years, you would say, does Penn State, it favors Ohio State because Penn State hasn't been able to beat them since 2016.
Right.
If you really just look at this season and the results on the field, the way Penn State has played to the way Ohio State has played, to me, it's just a true pick'em game. You do have that home field advantage. It's not a nighttime whiteout, which would be great. It is a during the day, big noon game.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes.
Okay. All right. So taking the points with Penn State. Kind of a big game coming up. You've got the wonderful undefeated Indiana Hoosiers. Where are we going with this game?
We're still riding that Hoosier train, and that's why Indiana is traveling to Michigan State, and I'm taking Indiana to cover the 6.5 points, and I'm making that my next Big Mountain Ice Cold lock. I feel very comfortable in this. I mean, Michigan State, they played well this last week against Michigan. They're a scrappy team. They've played better than I thought. But Indiana is just a freight train right now. Yep. They're running on all cylinders. This last week they didn't have Rourke. Taven Jackson had to come in, and he was not quite as efficient as Rourke. But you saw just this team is so balanced. Yep. Offense, defense, the running game, the passing game. Taven Jackson did just fine operating that offense. And their defense is just it's really, really solid, way better than I thought it was going to be this year. And they could just beat you in so many ways. And they're so well coached. So I like Indiana to win this game by double digits. Yeah. I think they're just a lot better than the current iteration of Michigan State. Now, a year or two from now, we'll see how that goes. But Kurt Cignetti, he's got this freight train rolling. We've been riding it all season. They have not trailed, JY. They have not trailed at any point. They're 8-0.
Crazy. It's crazy.
Not 1 second have they trailed in a game.
Yeah, that's just unbelievable. That stat is so crazy. And, I mean, I agree with you. They're still not being respected by the odds makers that make these lines. Right. I mean, that's clear here at 7.5. This should be up. This should be a double-digit spread. This should be a 10.5 type of spread. I think you'd probably still lock it at 10.5.
I probably would at 10.5. Yeah.
I mean, Steven likes Indiana to win by 21. He likes 3 touchdowns. So, and of course, Rumblings, who's a Oregon State fan, says he doesn't want Michigan State to score any points. But yeah, these lines just seem incredibly low for a team that is cooking. I mean, you look there and you go, where are the question marks? I know you were talking run defense, maybe. I was super impressed with their defense this past week. I mean, really strong defense. So it's just they got everything in their game right now. So, you might as well ride them all year. I mean, heck, even if they don't win one for you, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but there's nothing to show that they're not going to keep beating these spreads and beating these teams. So anyway,
and honestly, like if this line would have been like a 15, I expected it to be like 15.5, 16.5, 17.5.
Yeah,
maybe I would have had some pause and just picked it instead of locking it. But they're still Vegas, the odds makers, the pollsters, everybody still continues. They just look at Indiana as a good story.
Right.
They're more than a good story. They're a damn good team.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, moving on to David Jorgensen's Big Red Machine here, UCLA at Nebraska. I'm picking Nebraska to cover the 6.5. Nebraska, they got Hoosiered a couple weeks ago, but they came into Ohio State, into Columbus, and showed what they were made of. Again, I like this Nebraska team. They're a good, solid team. I'm not locking this game only because UCLA is kind of on that uptrend. Yes. They started so bad. They're playing better. So I'm not going to lock it, but I feel good about Nebraska winning this game by at least a touchdown and covering the 6.5. So that's why I took Nebraska to cover 6.5 points.
Yeah, I agree with you. UCLA, they've definitely shown that they are improving over the course of the season, at least from where you thought they would be at. So a little hesitation on why you wouldn't lock them, but I still like the pick, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, next game, Oregon at Michigan. I'm taking Oregon to cover 15.5, and I'm making that another Big Mountain Ice Cold lock. Oregon is just the machine. Last week, I picked them not to cover. Right. And like I said in our recap video, boy, was I wrong. I thought maybe they would just kind of take their foot off the gas, get through this game. They have a lot of goals. Obviously, they have no intention of doing that. Dylan Gabriel is operating that offense like a fine-tuned machine. Dan Lanning is pushing that pedal to the metal. Oregon is just such a balanced team. Their offense, their defense, really strong defense, strong running game. Dylan Gabriel, he is just spreading the ball all around the field wherever he wants to and beating teams with his legs. And Michigan, they just continue. Yes, they got a squeaker out over Michigan State.
Right.
But they are continuing to struggle to have a balanced offense in most games. They are very one-dimensional. Their defense is still good, not as good as last year, I don't think. But because their offense is so one-dimensional, we saw that Illinois and Michigan game where Illinois just said, we are not going to respect your pass game. We are going to shut down your run game. And they were able to slow them down a lot. I think Oregon is easily going to be able to do that. And I think they're going to come into the Big House and give Michigan an even bigger spanking than Texas did when they came in there. Like you said in our recap video, there is no signs that Oregon wants to let their foot off the gas. They're number one team in the country, and they want to stay there.
Yeah.
They want that number one seed. They want all the attention.
Yeah.
They want to show, and we talked about them coming into the season, though. They were the one Pac team that we thought was ready to compete right away into the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And they want to show people that every single week. So I feel really good about them beating, I think, by 3 touchdowns or more, just giving Michigan an old-fashioned butt-kicking. Michigan's feeling really good right now because they squeaked out that win over Little Brother this last week. But they got a tough schedule here the rest of the season, and I think this week they are in trouble.
Yeah, well, and we, like you mentioned, we said we thought Oregon was ready, but I'll tell you what, they're even better than I thought they were going to be. Like, we knew they were ready to make that move, but they're going on all cylinders. Yeah. I mean, they're scary.
They're slowing them down.
I will say real quick, I don't know if you saw this. I think I just saw it today. Michigan had been using three quarterbacks, right? And was it Tuttle?
Tuttle.
He retired.
Retired. Yeah, he got hurt, I think, 2 games ago. Got knocked out with another concussion. Yes. He was the guy. I think he's played like 6 years of football.
I think it's at 7.
Maybe this was our 7th.
He's one of my guys.
Yeah,
if you know what I'm saying.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, good for him to make that decision. I mean, you don't want to see people with those kind of injuries,
right.
But and they got 2 other quarterbacks they're going to continue to use, and I don't think it's going to matter. I mean,
right. Well, I'm just saying they've been trying to use different guys, and now their pool has been not that maybe it matters, but their pool has been decreased from what they would have had earlier. So okay.
I expect to see. I think we're going to see a lot of pain. Michigan got that. They got that win over Little Brother. They felt good. I think we're going to see a lot of pain the rest of the season for them. I see them losing this week to Oregon. I see them losing to Indiana. And I see them finishing the season with an absolute, getting their butt handed to them by Ohio State. And I don't really necessarily take pleasure in that, but we kind of predicted they were going to be down this year.
Yeah.
And we got so much pushback from Michigan fans saying, oh, the defense is still great. The defense is still there. Yada. Well, we'll see this week. Let's see how that defense holds up to Oregon.
Okay. All right. We've got a couple, 2 more Big Tens, and then your stepchild.
Yes. Okay. So USC traveling to Washington, kind of similar teams, but on opposite trajectories this year. I had USC high up, to compete for a 4th playoff spot. They've had some disappointing losses. With Washington, I really looked at them as, a rebuild this year and really struggling. I think they've basically been a little better than I thought, especially as the season has gone on.
Yeah.
USC's coming off of that great win at Rutgers where they just demolished Rutgers.
Right.
Now Rutgers has problems of their own.
Yeah.
So USC's traveling to Washington. Honestly, I was thinking really could have gone either way on this. And I just decided to go with USC to cover 2.5. It's not that many points. It's under a field goal. I think it'll be a low scoring game. And when it comes down to it, I think USC is just the better team.
Yeah.
So I don't feel super confident. Definitely not enough to lock this game. It could go either way, but I'm going with USC to cover the 2.5. I just think they're a better team. And the way that offense ran, the way the whole team ran against Rutgers, if they can continue that momentum, I think they get this win and cover the small spread.
I was anxious to see which way you were going to go because it is a small spread, and there's been some questions of USC. But your reasoning that you just gave is where I thought you were going to end up. Yeah. So you did everything I thought you were going to do. You picked USC, and the reasons you gave are exactly why I thought you would pick them. And that's what I would have done as well. I think at 2.5 points, you pick what is the better team. They're staying on the West Coast. Yeah. So, yes, it's at Washington, but they don't have to travel across to the East Coast on this. I'm totally agree with the take or the minus 2.5 on USC.
So similar game, kind of. The next game, Wisconsin at Iowa.
Yeah.
I was high on Iowa coming in this year, and they've played mostly well. They've taken their lumps. Cade McNamara has had some, a couple good games, but mostly terrible games. But Iowa they are what they are. Yeah. Good defense. Maybe not as good as some years in the past, but really solid defense. Solid running game.
Yeah.
Just a really good running game. They took it to Northwestern this week. And Wisconsin, I think, is on the come up. They struggled early in the season, but kind of about 4 or 5 games ago, they turned that switch on.
Yeah.
They've played really well. I thought they played pretty good against Penn State, especially in the first half. They led Penn State 10-7.
Yep.
Penn State was able to shut down their run game, which kind of exposed their quarterback situation. So we'll see if Iowa can do the same thing. I don't think that Iowa will be quite as successful. And the problem for Iowa is you never know what's going to happen with their run game. I see this as being just a low-scoring game. I think both teams are going to try and run the ball. Low-scoring, close game, comes down to a field goal. Total pick'em game for me, so that's why I'm taking Wisconsin plus the 3.5, and only because we're on that other side of the field goal. If this was, so I don't have a lot of confidence here. Very similar to USC and Washington, but because Wisconsin is getting the 3.5, I'm going to go ahead and take them plus the points. But I think this is a very low-scoring game. Both teams try and run the ball. I think both teams are going to try and protect their quarterbacks and not let them throw that interception. I don't know if you saw in the Penn State game that terrible interception the Wisconsin quarterback had.
Yes.
And Cade McNamara has been we can't even call him a Jekyll and Hyde because 80% of the time he's terrible, and then every now and then he plays okay. So I think they'll try and limit the risk with their quarterbacks. Low scoring, tight game. Taking Wisconsin plus the 3.5.
Okay. All right. Last one, your stepchild.
Yes. No, I made this pick just for you, JY.
I couldn't believe it.
UNC traveling to FSU. And FSU, I think they're 1-7 and they keep having these losses. I'm taking FSU plus 2.5. I think FSU beats them straight up. And yes, FSU has been on this terrible run this year. They had that loss to Duke when, if you looked at all the advanced stats, they should have won the game. And I know there'll be some people, thinking that I'm getting paid off by FSU. But this is a North Carolina team that gave up 50 points to, I can't remember who it was, JMU or Old Dominion.
Yeah, I don't remember who it was either.
This UNC team is not very good this year either.
They just put up a bunch of points to Virginia, though, didn't they?
They did. Well, Virginia is not a good team either.
Well, neither's FSU, Steve.
Well, FSU has that win over Cal, which was a very good win for them. A Cal team that just beat the crap out of the Beavers.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. So anyways, neither one of these, I don't have any confidence in either one of these teams. However, Squeeze Money says UNC got destroyed by JMU. I think they gave up like 55 points to something crazy.
Yeah.
Both teams not very good. So I'm taking FSU. At some point, the worm is going to turn. And I get the points. I get 2.5 points. I'm taking it. I'm riding it. At some point, I'm going to catch that turn, and we'll see when it is.
You know what this reminds me of, Steve?
What's that?
When you're in a casino. And you're at the roulette wheel.
Chasing money?
You're at the roulette wheel. And all the numbers on that damn screen are black. And you're like, I'm going red.
Yeah.
And it just keeps coming up black. And you're like, one of these days, it's going to go red.
And eventually it will.
That's like you with FSU.
Yes, and eventually it will. And I'm going to be on that.
Okay. Yippee.
70 points. Anthony
70
says,
points. Okay.
I think they gave up 55 or 50 points in the first half.
Okay.
UNC did, and ended up giving up 70. This is a super flawed UNC. Both of these teams have flaws.
Yeah.
Super flawed UNC team, and Florida State, they're the better team. At some point, they got to win one of these.
You're betting red when it's just coming up black. But with that, let's get to the. Did you like my little? I pulled in
Your
a little
analogy,
my analogy.
I like it.
And you have. You like roulette every so
Absolutely.
often. You drink your hot cocoa and you play down on the columns, and you got a little thing going.
Love it.
I know how you roll.
Let's go. We got time. Let's go to the casino after that.
I got to make my picks first.
Okay, all right.
And then maybe. All right, so we're going to go to the Mountain West. I think I have 5 picks. A little bit of a lighter week for the Mountain West. Both of the Pac teams are off this week, so that's one of the reasons. So we've got San Diego State versus Boise State. The line is 23.5. I got to take the Broncos here. They are a scoring machine. You could say, well, they have a little bit of a letdown after that huge game against UNLV. Possible, but this offense is really strong. We talked in the Mountain West recap video how great that front was of the defense. I will say San Diego State, their quarterback, O'Neal, got injured against Washington State. He was out for a little bit. He did come back in. It was a shoulder injury. And I'm sorry, San Diego State, if you had trouble with Washington State's defense, you're going to have gobs of problems with Boise State's defense, especially that front. So I like this pick. I'm not going to lock it just because some little bit of intangibles here that I'm a little unsure of. Just kind of maybe a bit of a letdown game. Not letdown, they're going to lose it, but a little bit of a letdown game maybe for Boise where they're not pushing the envelope. Although I do think Genty wants to get right back on that horse and pound down another 300 yards and 3 touchdown type of game. So that wouldn't surprise me. But I'm just going to make this a pick. I'm not going to make this a lock. Boise State minus 23.5.
Yeah, I like it. My only concern is with Genty. He had that little elbow tweak against UNLV.
Yeah.
Do they try and rest him at some point in the game? So I like the pick, and I understand why you're not going for the full lock, just because there's some variables in play.
Yeah, and the backup, his was a freshman or redshirt freshman, Sire Gaines, has been injured as well. So, I don't think the issue with Genty's at all super serious.
Right.
But good point. If there's a little bit of an issue, they're not going to push the envelope. They have bigger fish to fry than beating San Diego State by 24 points.
Well, yeah, and you and I have been riding the Genty for Heisman campaign.
Thank you.
But Coach, is it Danielson?
Yes.
Right? Coach Danielson, who I think has been fantastic since he's taken over this program last year.
Yeah.
He has the bigger picture in mind. I think he has continued to have that big picture in mind where they have as a team, they have some major team goals. Basically, every college football playoff projection I saw this week had Boise in it.
Yes.
And you don't want to do anything to mess that up.
No, for sure. So let's get to pick number 2. One of our Service Academy games here. Army versus Air Force. The line is 22.5. I am taking Army as the favorite, giving the 22.5, Steve, and I'm making it my first Big Mountain ice cold lock. I love the line here. Air Force is going to struggle to score. Army is going to get plenty of points. You saw the spread with the Navy versus Air Force game. I think this is very similar, if not maybe worse. I think Army has an even better offense than what Navy had. I think, like I say, Air Force is really going to struggle to score here. We kind of joked about me picking against Air Force and locking against Air Force about 3 weeks ago. I don't know if I'm going to lock against them every week, but they're just going to struggle to score. They tried to make a quarterback change 2 different times. Boucher now came back. I don't know if he's going to start this game. Quite frankly, it's irrelevant to me. I don't care who's under center for Air Force. They're just going to struggle to score, and Army they know how to score. So at 22.5 points, I love this line. Give me the, what are they? The Black Knights?
Black Knights now.
Yeah.
Army Black Knights. Yeah. You look at the advanced stats, and Army is one of the most efficient teams in the country from an offensive perspective, and playing pretty good defense as well. And Air Force, unfortunately, is just kind of they're one of the worst teams in FBS. I hate to say it. So I love the pick. I love the lock, and I will be putting some of my own hard-earned greenbacks on that.
Well, I love this lock as much as I loved my New Mexico lock against CSU last week, and we all know how that turned out. New Mexico decided to not score. So hopefully that doesn't happen here with Army, and they can pound the rock into the end zone many a time.
Well, I agree, and I'm going to defend you a little bit on that. We were talking off camera, and when you look at the advanced stats of that game, if you played the New Mexico game 100 times, New Mexico would have won 85, 90 times and covered easily. The fact that they scored so little points, it's like it's 1,000,000 to 1 odds.
Right,
I mean, it's just amazing.
Right. Like I say, the total number was 23. I think the over-under on that game was 60. So, anyway, let's put that behind us. Let's lock Army and make some money. All right, game number 3. Speaking of the Lobos, New Mexico versus Wyoming. Wyoming traveling south to New Mexico. I am actually going to take the 7.5 points here with Wyoming. I'm not super confident. I think I've said that 3 or 4 weeks in a row when I pick Wyoming, and they've been close games. That's why I'm not super confident. I will say they have named, Steve, Caden Anderson, the starting quarterback for the Wyoming Cowboys. I know that doesn't surprise you at all. Whaley is also supposed to be back, so this could be a significantly better offense in Albuquerque than they've had all season. And I'm not trying to knock Svoboda or anybody else, but Anderson looked much better throwing the ball. He looked much more comfortable throwing the ball. And Harrison Whaley has the breakaway speed that they have not had at running back. So I'm going to take the points here. Maybe we've learned a little bit, especially with CSU's defense. Playing New Mexico. Of course, New Mexico turned the ball over 4 times. But as I said, I really appreciated the way the Pokes defense played against USU that has a very high-scoring offense. So, when I saw this was a touchdown that you're giving me, I'm going to take those points, and I'm hopeful that the Wyoming Cowboys keep it close and, can win us some money taking the +7. So, I am going to bet this game. I'm going to bet Wyoming with the points.
Vegas is giving you 7.5, and you're also getting another touchdown for that pick 6 that Svoboda's not going to be able to throw this week. So it's almost like you're getting 14 points.
What?
I said Vegas.
No, I heard you. Yes, I got that. I was half listening to you and half reading Squeeze Money saying he agrees with Wyoming if they keep 17, kind of what you were saying.
Yeah.
That's the 7 points that he's
There you
talking
go.
about there, or that you're talking about. But yes. So anyway, we'll see what happens. All right, next one. Hawaii, the Jekyll and Hyde team, as you call them, traveling to Fresno State. The line is just under 2 touchdowns at 13.5. Bulldogs really impressive last week. Hawaii, and I'll be honest, their Jekyll and Hydeness comes from home versus away. They play well at home, they don't travel well. And because they don't travel well, and I like Fresno's chances here, this is my second Big Mountain ice cold lock. Bulldogs minus 13.5. They have a very strong defense. Hawaii is super suspect when they travel to the mainland. And I like where Fresno's at. They're still in the Mountain West race. They have to win this game if they want to be there. They're kind of a win to advance type of situation right now. And it's kind of the reverse of what I'm saying about Hawaii. Fresno plays really good at home. Yes. They are a very strong home team. So I'll lay the 13.5 here with the Bulldogs.
At the end of the season, I think we should do a comparison of my record picking Florida State to either win or cover.
Yes.
Versus your record of picking Hawaii to win or cover.
But I didn't pick Hawaii.
Not this week. I'm saying at the end of the season, a cumulative of the whole season, we should compare those numbers.
Okay. Well, I didn't pick them last week either.
No.
And they beat me.
Yeah, but you picked them other weeks.
A few, yes. So you're telling me they're my red chips, or my bet on the red.
They might be. They might be.
All right, we'll check it out. Anyway, that's a Big Mountain Ice Cold lock. Bulldogs for the dub. Last one here, Nevada versus Colorado State. The line only 1.5. I looked at this, and at first I went, that's got to be another lock. And the more I thought about this, the more I went, no, I don't think this is. And here's a few reasons why. Nevada last week, yes, they traveled to Hawaii. They got beat by, I don't know what it was, 3 touchdowns or 2 I don't remember. But Lewis did not play. They do have a lot of injuries. They both their running backs got injured, their tight end got injured, a couple D linemen got injured in Hawaii. I don't know where exactly they're at in terms of playing or not playing. And CSU, I mean, again, we talked about what they did, at least holding New Mexico to very few points. So I was going to lock CSU at the minus 1.5, but I'm not sure where Nevada is at. And it's home in Nevada this game. And they have done special things at home, and they had that super close game with SMU back at the beginning of the season. So I really like CSU here. Again, I'm not going to lock it because I'm not 100% sure where Nevada's at in this game. If most of these players are going to play, it's going to be a really close game. If a lot of these players are going to be injured, CSU should roll here. But CSU has really struggled to score. I say that every freaking week. They struggle to score. So it's going to be hard for me to lock CSU moving forward.
Yeah, I like the pick. I mean, it's a small line. It's basically like a pick 'em.
Yep.
So I like the pick. CSU kind of it feels like that team that they struggled out of conference early in the season. And now since they've gotten in Mountain West play, they're on a roll. They're figuring out ways to win.
Yeah.
I had assumed early on in the season that we would get a UNLV Boise rematch, but you were the first to put me on and everyone else on it that CSU, they are on track. The way their schedule shapes up, if they just keep winning games, and I think they're motivated. I think they're playing well in general, balanced. Maybe not as good at scoring as you would have liked to have seen.
Right.
But overall, they're playing well. They're playing balanced. And like you said, really depends on Nevada. If the starting quarterback is out, I mean, he's been the key this year. That relationship with him and the coach and how the offense was working. Yeah. If he's out again, the way they struggled at Hawaii, they'll probably struggle the same way at CSU, against CSU.
I agree. And I kind of beat up CSU's offense. And I probably don't speak highly enough of CSU's defense because they are the ones that are keeping these low-scoring games and letting the offense that hasn't put up the points as I had expected still in the games to win games. They've got a good record. And yes, without playing Boise and without playing UNLV, they could absolutely sweep their conference record, and they will be in the conference championship. We don't need a computer. We don't need anybody. CSU has the back door, if you will, into the Mountain West Championship game. So do not be surprised. They have some difficult games, but they don't play the two best teams, the easy two best easiest two best teams that we can name. So anyway, that's it. That's all I got. 5. Super light week for the Mountain West.
Yeah, I like them. I like your picks. That Army lock, I think I might be going pretty heavy on that for sure.
Yeah, so locks again. You had Illinois, Indiana, Oregon. I had Army and Fresno. So we got 5 locks coming at you. I know I offered last week in my locks. Certainly want to do better. I like both of my locks, and I'm of course going to be betting them. If I'm locking them, I'm betting them. That's a guarantee.
I feel a 4 out of 5 coming our way. I went 2-1 in my locks last week, and really that Michigan State game could have, that could end up well for us. So, we had the one bad week a few weeks ago, and I think overall we're getting back on track. So I see you getting back on track this week. I'm gonna get back on track, and we're gonna have a good week.
Very good. Well, hey, we thank you guys for tuning in on a Tuesday night. Very odd. I said to Steve when we were doing this, I feel like we just did this.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite ready. I was ready, but it just feels a little bit off. So anyway, hey, we thank you guys for tuning in. Sorry for the audible that we had to pull here real quick. If you guys haven't checked out our interview and discussion with Bob Thompson, make sure you do that after this. I know some of you have already left some comments on there. Really good. We talk Mountain West. You talk Big Ten Network, kind of the future of college football media. And then we also talk a little bit about FCS, which I enjoyed what he had to say there for FCS moving to FBS. So make sure you check that one out. I have I just recorded another Mountain West edition episode that I'll put out tomorrow. No, not real new news, but just kind of coalescing around what we know right now.
In the realignment world right now, the only really it's Mountain West and Pac, but Pac has been so quiet. It's basically just the Mountain West right now.
Yep. So hey, with that, we thank you guys for watching. Again, thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you like the episode if you haven't already. We'll see you guys next time on the Big Mountain.